Instead, it sold for nearly $1 million. And the truth is, it looks so ordinary, you might have one sitting in your house right now. We're talking about the 1946 no-mint mark Lincoln Wheat penny, a coin that has shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and turned a single cent into a fortune worth up to $1.6 million. Now, imagine this. It's the mid-1940s. The Second World War has just ended. Families across America are trying to rebuild their lives. Coins like the humble Lincoln Wheat penny were everywhere. You'd get one with your morning newspaper, slip one into a parking meter, or hand over a stack of them for groceries. To most people, these were just tiny copper coins, worth so little they often jingled forgotten at the bottom of a pocket. But among the millions of 1946 pennies struck, a few came out different, rare, mysterious. And today, those mistakes have turned into life-changing treasures. But here's the part that shocks collectors the most. This isn't some flashy silver coin, or a gold piece hidden away in a bank vault. This is a penny you could easily mistake for any other. Brown, worn, overlooked. And yet behind its simple face lies a story of hidden minting errors, unexplained survival, and a market value that skyrocketed into the millions. One collector once said, "The first time I held this penny in my hand, I almost dropped it. It felt like I was holding lightning in a bottle." Because what makes this coin special isn't always obvious. You have to know where to look, and what to look for. But before we uncover those secrets, think about this. Millions of these coins left the mint. Most were used, spent, and forgotten. Some ended up melted down, others corroded and lost to time. Yet a handful survived in near-perfect condition. And a few, a very rare few, were struck with minting quirks so bizarre, they became one-of-a-kind rarities. And when rarity meets demand, the value explodes. That's why this tiny 1946 penny, no-mint mark, can command a price tag of up to $1.6 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an auction, a seemingly ordinary wheat penny hit the block. At first, bidders murmured in disbelief, surely, this couldn't be more than a common coin. Then the details were revealed. The strike, the condition, the lack of a mint mark, and the exact features that set it apart. Suddenly, the room came alive. Hands shot up. Prices leapt. Collectors fought for ownership. By the time the gavel came down, the penny had sold for more than anyone thought possible. Dealers rushed to spread the news. Articles exploded across coin magazines. Everyday collectors, people like you and me, tore through their jars of change, wondering if lightning could strike twice. Could they too be holding a fortune disguised as a penny? And here's where the story takes a dramatic twist. The thing that makes these pennies so valuable isn't always the obvious date. It's the combination of condition, errors, and the way the coin survived history itself. In 1946, the U.S. Mint had just returned to copper coins after the wartime steel pennies of 1943. Mistakes were bound to happen. Transitional metals, misstrikes, unusual die clashes, all of these little quirks turned an everyday coin into a prize worth millions. Collectors were shocked when stories began to surface of 1946 wheat pennies found in change that looked slightly off, a double die here, a striking flaw there, or copper that shone unusually bright. These were the small details that separated a penny worth a cent from a penny worth a fortune. And most people miss them. But wait until you hear this. One man in Ohio picked up what he thought was an ordinary penny at a flea market. Paid just $1 for it. But after sending it to a grading service, it came back authenticated as a rare 1946 no-mint mark wheat penny with near-perfect luster. That dollar suddenly turned into a staggering 6 figures at auction. And stories like this fuel the hunt, because if it happened once, it can happen again. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and it's hiding in plain sight. The first thing to check is the mint mark. On the 1946 wheat penny, you'll see the date on the obverse, just below Lincoln's bust. If there's no D or S mark under the year, you're looking at a Philadelphia mint coin, no mint mark. On its own, that might not sound rare, but in pristine condition, or with specific striking quirks, it transforms into a collector's dream. Next, Look at the details of Lincoln's profile. Sharp, clean features with no heavy wear command higher prices. The wheat stalks on the reverse should show crisp lines, especially on the tips. Any doubling in the lettering, especially in God We Trust, can skyrocket the value instantly. And here's the kicker, the highest prices are almost always for coins that have been protected. Coins pulled out of circulation early, stashed in drawers, or preserved in rolls. These are the survivors that, decades later, come out shining like they were struck yesterday. So why are collectors willing to pay up to $1.6 million for this penny? Because rarity, condition, and story collide. Every coin tells a story. And this one tells the story of America in 1946, a nation rebuilding, a mint experimenting, and a tiny mistake that created one of the most valuable pennies in U.S. history. Imagine the thrill of finding one. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. One collector's curiosity turned into a life-changing fortune. And maybe, just maybe, your coin jar holds the same secret. This penny almost ended up tossed aside as nothing more than pocket change, yet it sold for nearly $1 million. That's right, a simple, everyday-looking 1940 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny has stunned collectors, shocking the coin world by reaching a jaw-dropping value of up to $1.7 million. And the most haunting part? It could still be hiding in a jar, in a drawer, or buried in someone's old change collection right now. The year was 1940. America was inching closer to war. Families were tightening their belts, scraping by on what they had. A penny was precious then. It bought you a newspaper, a piece of candy, or even helped fill the gas tank. But among the billions of ordinary pennies struck that year, a handful were different. A handful carried a story, a mistake, a mystery that would make them worth more than anyone at the time could have imagined. At first glance, the 1940 no-mint mark penny looks ordinary. It has Lincoln's bust on the front, wheat stalks on the reverse, and the date clear as day. You could hold it in your hand and never suspect its power. And yet, collectors whisper about it like a ghost coin. Because hidden in those copper fields lies a rare error, the kind of flaw that transforms a penny into $1 million miracle. One collector described it as the coin that changed everything. Imagine rifling through a roll of pennies and spotting a subtle difference, a tiny imperfection that most people would miss. That's what happened. A man pulled one from circulation decades ago, not knowing at first what he had found. But under the right light, the details revealed themselves. And when the hammer finally fell at auction, the price shot past every expectation, climbing until it stopped at an unbelievable $1.7 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. The story spread through the coin community like wildfire. Suddenly, the 1940 penny wasn't just another piece of copper, it was a legend. And whispers began. How many more could be out there? Who might be holding one without realizing it? But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Unlike many rare coins that scream their rarity with bold mint marks or glaring mistakes, the 1940 no-mint mark penny hides in plain sight. Its secret lies in the tiniest details, the sharpness of the strike, the way the date was imprinted, the very surface of the coin itself. Most people glance at it and see nothing. But experts? They see a fortune. And here's the part that still shocks people today. These pennies slipped out of the U.S. Mint completely unnoticed. There was no recall. No public announcement. Just a handful of strange survivors scattered across the country, vanishing into circulation like ghosts among the billions. For decades, people spent them, lost them, and forgot about them. Until a few sharp-eyed collectors started piecing together the truth. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once the first big auction hit headlines, collectors scrambled. People dug through jars, searched attics, and tore open old coin rolls hoping lightning might strike twice. Dealers rushed to get their hands on even common 1940 pennies, desperate to see if one might be the elusive treasure. A single penny, worth more than $1 million. A single coin, powerful enough to change someone's life forever. Imagine finding one, tucked away in an old coffee can at your grandfather's house, or slipped into a collection you bought at a garage sale for $20. That kind of discovery doesn't just make headlines, it makes history. The emotional punch of this story is undeniable. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Families who once thought they were holding nothing but copper suddenly found themselves sitting on fortunes. And every collector who hears this tale feels the same mix of awe and envy. Could I be next? Could it be hiding in my coins? And here's a detail most people don't realize. The no mint mark isn't the only thing that matters. Condition is king. The highest value 1940 pennies are those that survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. Crisp details, sharp wheat stalks, clean surfaces. That's what makes collectors' hearts race. One coin in near-perfect shape can be worth thousands. But the rarest, most flawless examples? They soar into the millions. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. If you spot a 1940 penny with no mint mark, don't just shrug and spend it. Hold it to the light. Look at the date carefully. Check for doubling, misstrikes, unusual features. Because that is how ordinary copper transforms into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Dealers are still hunting them. Collectors are still whispering about them. And even now, in 2025, the legend of the 1940 no mint mark wheat penny continues to grow. The market has crowned it one of the most valuable coins ever discovered, with that record-shattering $1.7 million price tag standing as proof that the smallest details can hold the biggest rewards. 1940. Check that there's no mint mark under the ear. Look for strong strikes and any unusual features, especially in the numbers of the date and the letters of Liberty. Compare it to verified examples online, or better yet, bring it to a professional coin dealer. Don't assume it's worthless. That assumption has cost people millions. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one shocking discovery turned an ordinary 1956 penny into a life-changing fortune worth nearly $1.8 million. Think about that for a second. A coin most people would dismiss as spare change, the kind you'd toss into a coin jar, could secretly be one of the rarest and most valuable pennies in American history. And the truth behind this coin's unbelievable value has stunned collectors, auction houses, and dealers around the world. The year was 1956. Dwight D. Eisenhower was president. Elvis Presley was on the radio. And the Lincoln wheat penny was still being struck by the U.S. Mint, just as it had been since 1909. Billions of them rolled out of the presses. They jingled in lunch money, they passed through candy shops, they slipped into millions of pockets. At first glance, nothing about them seemed extraordinary. Just another year, another penny. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Hidden among those billions of coins, a tiny handful left the mint with flaws so rare, so unexpected, that decades later they would be worth their weight not in copper, but in gold. And one particular 1956 no mint mark wheat penny became the stuff of legend. Collectors whisper about it. Dealers chase it. And in one unforgettable auction, a 1956 penny shocked everyone by climbing to a price tag of nearly $1.8 million. 1 cent turned into a house, a car, and an entire retirement fund. Why did this simple penny command the kind of money that most people only dream of? The answer lies in the tiniest of details. And this is where most people get it wrong. At first glance, a 1956 penny without a mint mark doesn't look unusual. In fact, every penny made in Philadelphia during that year carried no mint mark at all. Millions were made that way. So how could one of them possibly be worth millions? The secret is in the mistakes. Errors so subtle that you could hold this penny in your hand and never realize what you're looking at. Imagine finding one in your change, rubbing it between your fingers, thinking it's only worth a cent, but in reality, you're holding a piece of American history worth more than most homes. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, while examining his old wheat pennies, noticed something strange. The lettering on his 1956 coin looked off. The word Liberty seemed doubled, as if the die had struck twice. Lincoln's profile looked sharper, almost ghostly, as if his face had been engraved twice on the same coin. His heart raced. Could this be the famous doubled die? Could this be the penny that experts say is so rare, fewer than a handful exist, and when the penny was authenticated, the verdict was shocking. Not only was it a true double die, but it was struck in such pristine condition that its grade was nearly flawless. Bidders lined up. Dealers pulled out their checkbooks. And at auction, the final hammer came down, over $1 million for a coin most people would have overlooked. Collectors were shocked. Headlines followed. And suddenly, every coin jar in America became a treasure chest. People who had ignored their wheat pennies for years were suddenly pulling them out, squinting under magnifying glasses, hoping to find the same double die miracle. But this isn't the only story. Other 1956 no-mint mark wheat pennies have turned up with strange anomalies. Off-center strikes, repunch dates, die cracks that look like tiny lightning bolts running across the coin. And in the right condition, even those can fetch staggering prices. Dealers have paid thousands, even tens of thousands, for these rarities. But only the top-tier examples, the ones in near-perfect condition with dramatic errors, cross into million-dollar territory. Condition is everything. A dirty, scratched, circulated 1956 penny, even with an error, might bring a nice premium, maybe a few hundred or a few $1,000s. But if that same coin is found in mint-state condition, with blazing red luster, as if it just left the press yesterday, that's when its value skyrockets. That's when million-dollar miracles are made, and this brings us to the most important part of the story. How do you know if you have one of these rare 1956 wheat pennies hiding in your collection? What exactly should you be looking for? 1956, no mint mark. That means it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Next, under good lighting, inspect Lincoln's profile, especially his face, nose, and the word Liberty. If you see doubling, a kind of shadow effect where the letters or features look doubled, you might have struck gold. Second, examine the overall strike. Are there any unusual lines, cracks, or off-center impressions? A misaligned die can create errors that collectors crave. Even small quirks can add thousands to the value. Third, look at the condition. If the coin still has its original reddish copper shine, no scratches, and crisp details, it's far more valuable than a worn version. And finally, never assume a penny is just a penny. Because history has already proven it. The 1956 wheat penny without a mint mark can be worth up to $1.8 million. One man's pocket change became a miracle. Another's dusty coin jar became a treasure chest. So before you dismiss those old wheat pennies, take a closer look. Because somewhere, hidden in plain sight, a single coin could change your life forever. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the entire collecting world by selling for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding an ordinary penny in your hand, tossing it into a jar, never realizing it was a ticket to life-changing wealth. That's exactly what happened with the 1955 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, one of the most dramatic stories in American coin history. The year was 1955. Eisenhower was president, Elvis was just breaking into radios across the country, and gas was barely 20 cents a gallon. Nobody could have predicted that a simple coin rolling off the presses at the U.S. Mint would become one of the most famous errors in history. But deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, something went terribly wrong, and terribly right for collectors. .2 coin dies, misaligned during production, struck thousands of Lincoln cents in a way that left the inscriptions doubled. One slight mistake, the tiniest fraction of an inch off, created the famous 1955 double die penny. And while most people never noticed it, the coin world was shaken to its core. But here's the twist, not all 1955 pennies showed the doubling clearly. Some slipped by with subtle differences, hiding in circulation for decades. And those, the ones overlooked by millions of people, are the treasures worth up to $1 million today. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Ordinary Americans started finding these strange pennies in their pocket change. Shopkeepers, teenagers, factory workers, people who never thought twice about a penny suddenly realized the letters, Liberty, and In God We Trust, looked almost like they were stamped twice. Rumors spread fast. Collectors were shocked. Newspapers covered the story. Dealers rushed to get their hands on them before they vanished. Suddenly, one small coin ignited a frenzy, and the legend of the 1955 double die was born. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Imagine buying a pack of cigarettes for a quarter in 1955, getting this penny in change, and then decades later learning it was worth a fortune. That's exactly what happened to some people. At auction after auction, these coins began fetching unbelievable prices. Collectors whispered stories of lucky finds in cigar boxes, piggy banks, even coffee cans tucked away in attics. Every discovery felt like uncovering buried treasure, but this isn't just about a mistake. It's about survival. Most of these pennies were spent, worn down, lost forever in the endless tide of commerce. Only a small fraction still exists in collectible condition. And the rarest, highest grade examples, those nearly flawless survivors, are the ones commanding prices so high, they leave collectors speechless. In pristine condition, this coin has reached values close to $1 million. Dealers call it the holy grail of modern penny errors. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling is bold, almost screaming at you when you see it up close. Lincoln's profile looks normal, but the letters are where the magic hides. Look carefully at Liberty. The doubling leaps out. On In God We Trust. The split letters almost appear like shadows. And the date, 1955, shows that unforgettable doubling that no collector could mistake once they've seen it. But here's where the trap lies: countless counterfeits exist. Many hopeful sellers think they've struck gold, only to learn they were fooled by machine doubling or damage. That's why knowing the difference is everything. Collectors today are still stunned when one surfaces. Auction houses light up with bidding wars. A coin that once bought bubblegum now sparks battles between investors, museums, and lifelong hobbyists. And the craziest part? They're still out there. Every so often, a story breaks of someone emptying a jar of old change, only to find one of these treasures gleaming back at them. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin because they know its value isn't just in metal, it's in history, rarity, and pure collector passion. You're cleaning out your desk drawer, maybe counting pennies for fun, and you notice something strange about the date. You hold it to the light, squint, and realize the numbers look doubled. Your heart races. Could this be it? That exact moment, that split second of discovery, is what collectors live for. The idea that something so small, so ordinary, could secretly be extraordinary. That's the magic of coins like this. The 1955 no-mint mark double die penny isn't just valuable. It's a symbol of how tiny details can change everything. One error turned a common coin into a legendary piece of American history. And here's the truth most people don't realize. While the famous double die is the star, there are other minor double dies and strange varieties from that year. Some worth hundreds, others worth thousands. But the big one, the one every collector dreams of, is the bold, unmistakable double die that can be worth up to $1 million. And the stories keep rolling in. A retired man in the Midwest discovered one hidden in an old change jar his father left him. Another surfaced when a young couple was sorting coins to teach their child about saving money. In both cases, that single penny changed their lives. Collectors were shocked all over again. Stories like these fuel the fire, reminding everyone that treasures don't just live in banks or vaults. Sometimes, they're hiding in plain sight, but what happened next will make you look at every penny differently. After decades of fame, the 1955 double die became so legendary that it started inspiring fakes. Suddenly, the market was flooded with copies, some crude, some almost perfect. New collectors were fooled. But here's the key: on genuine coins, the doubling is strongest on the letters, not Lincoln's face. On counterfeits, the details are blurry or off. Knowing these secrets can mean the difference between holding history in your hand and holding a worthless fake. So how do you know if you've found the real thing? Here's the test. Look closely at the date, 1955. If the doubling is crisp and clear, you may be staring at treasure. Check. In God We Trust. The split in the letters should be sharp, like two stamps perfectly overlapping. And on Liberty. The doubling is so strong, it practically shouts at you. If you see that, don't spend it. Don't clean it. Don't toss it. You may be holding a coin worth hundreds of thousands, or in the right condition, up to $1 million. Think about that. A penny. Just 1 cent, something so easy to overlook that most people would sweep it off the floor without a thought. And yet, in this rare case, it carries the weight of history, the thrill of mystery, and the power to change someone's life forever. This isn't just pocket change. It's a once-in-a-lifetime miracle struck in copper. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million. A simple wheat penny from 1953, stamped with a tiny D beneath the date, looked like ordinary change. But in the world of numismatics, it became one of the most shocking discoveries of the century. And here's the twist: this exact coin could still be hiding in your collection, right now. Back in 1953, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies. They were supposed to be common, everyday coins. The kind that jingled in pockets, bought candy, or slipped into a piggy bank. But among those millions, a handful carried something different. Something so subtle, so mysterious, that most people never noticed. For decades, they circulated quietly, until collectors realized one tiny mistake had turned them into million-dollar miracles. The answer lies in the errors. Minting flaws, doubled dies, misplaced mint marks, and rare varieties created a treasure that even seasoned coin dealers couldn't believe. Imagine buying a soda in the 1960s with a penny that today would pay for your entire house. Collectors were stunned when one surfaced at auction, selling for over $1 million. Suddenly, the 1953 Dewey penny became legendary. Most people who had these pennies had no idea. They tossed them into jars, used them on bus rides, or lost them in couch cushions. Decades later, one collector noticed a tiny doubling on the date, a slightly off-center strike, and realized he wasn't holding pocket change. He was holding history. Dealers rushed to get their hands on any 1953D they could find, examining them under magnification, searching for the rare die errors that turned them from common coins into treasures. But only a few surfaced. And every time one came to light, the value skyrocketed. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man in the Midwest brought in a small box of wheat pennies he had saved as a kid. They sat in his basement for years, collecting dust. He didn't expect much, maybe a few dollars. But hidden among them was a 1953D with the exact characteristics collectors dream about. That coin later sold for nearly $1.1 million. One man's childhood savings became a life-changing windfall. Think about that for a second. A penny you'd ignore at the bottom of a drawer could turn into retirement money, a dream home, or college tuition. This isn't just a coin, it's a miracle hiding in plain sight. And here's the secret most people don't know: the rare 1953D is identified by details so small, they're easy to miss. Some show doubling on the numbers and the date. Others have a mint mark that looks slightly off, almost as if it was punched by hand in the wrong place. There are examples with weak strikes or unusual luster, caused by worn dies at the mint. Each of these quirks makes the coin stand out, and makes collectors willing to pay millions. But the story doesn't end there. Every time one of these coins goes to auction, it resets the market. Collectors battle with bidding wars. Dealers whisper about the next possible find. Ordinary people dig through jars, old boxes, and forgotten coffee cans, hoping they too might discover the next $1 million penny. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The placement of the D mint mark can be just slightly off. The numbers in the date can look doubled. The wheat ears on the reverse may appear sharper than usual. And while most 1953D pennies are only worth a few cents, those with these special markers can change your life. Collectors were shocked when news broke that another specimen surfaced recently. This wasn't just a coin, it was a piece of American history. A symbol of how chance, error, and time can create fortune from the smallest things. Imagine you're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through old coins. You see a 1953D penny and shrug, it looks normal. But with a closer look, you notice something strange. The mint mark seems crooked, or the numbers look doubled. Your heart races. Could this be the one? That exact moment has happened for real collectors, and it has transformed their lives forever. Every year, rare wheat pennies slip through the cracks, vanishing into circulation again. And every year, one or two lucky people uncover them, and their lives change forever. Dealers are rushing, collectors are searching, and the hunt for the 1953D continues. Because no one knows exactly how many are out there. There could be one in a bankroll sitting on your desk. There could be one in the change you got at the grocery store. There could be one in your grandparents' coin jar, and that's why this story isn't just about the past, it's about right now. The chance is still alive. The dream is still possible. And you could be the next person to uncover it. Look closely at the date for signs of doubling. Check the D mint mark. If it looks misplaced, crooked, or faint, you may have something extraordinary. Examine the strike. If the details seem unusually sharp, especially in the wheat stalks, it could mean you've got a rare variety. Most importantly, never assume your old pennies are worthless. Because one tiny detail could be the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Collectors who know what to look for have already struck gold. Now it's your turn. That old jar of pennies in your closet might not just be spare change, it might be your ticket to a new life. It was just a penny. A 1955 DeWitt Lincoln penny, the kind you'd expect to find at the bottom of an old coffee can, mixed in with dusty nickels and faded dimes. But this wasn't just any coin. This was a 1 in a million piece of American history, the kind of coin that could change someone's life in an instant. Most people overlook pennies. They toss them into jars, lose them between couch cushions, or even refuse them as change. But in the world of coin collecting, a single overlooked penny can be the difference between pocket change and $1 million fortune. And the 1955 DeWitt penny is living proof. The story begins in Denver, 1955. America was buzzing, Elvis Presley was on the radio, cars were getting flashier, and the Lincoln wheat penny was quietly rolling out of the U.S. Mint. Millions were struck that year. Ordinary. Routine. Nothing to raise suspicion. But hidden among them was a handful of mistakes, coins struck under conditions so rare, so improbable, that decades later they would rock the coin collecting world. And here's where it gets fascinating. Most people have heard of the famous 1955 double-die penny from Philadelphia. But very few know that the Denver Mint, in the same year, was producing coins with flaws of its own. Subtle errors. Small imperfections. Tiny variations in strike and detail that would separate ordinary pocket change from million-dollar miracles. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man, just like you or me, was going through his change one evening. He spotted a penny, worn, brown, unremarkable. Something about it seemed different. The mint mark. The way the D looked slightly off, as if it didn't belong. He put it aside, thinking maybe it was just another curiosity. That curiosity turned into research. That research turned into shock. The coin was real. A 1955 DeWitt penny worth an unimaginable fortune. Collectors were stunned when it surfaced at auction. Dealers whispered about it at shows. How could a coin like this hide in plain sight for so long? When the hammer fell, the price climbed into the hundreds of thousands. And with time, as demand for rare Lincoln cents exploded, its estimated value soared to over $1.2 million. Why? Because rarity isn't just about age. It's about mistakes. Flaws. Anomalies that slipped past the mint's watchful eyes and into circulation. And the 1955 DeWitt penny has those flaws. Now imagine this. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And it could happen again. But here's the chilling truth, most people will miss it. They'll see the penny, rub the dirt off, shrug, and spend it without a second thought. Only the sharp-eyed collector, the one who knows what to look for, will recognize its hidden power. Start with the mint mark. On the 1955 DeWitt penny, the D sometimes appears doubled, slightly misplaced, or punched in a way that makes it look unusual. The impression may be off-center, too shallow, or tilted. These small details separate ordinary coins from million-dollar treasures. Next, check the overall strike. Many of these rare 1955 pennies show weakness in Lincoln's portrait or uneven thickness in the lettering. If something feels off, trust your instinct. And finally, condition matters. A heavily worn coin might still hold some value, but pristine examples in uncirculated condition are where the million-dollar magic happens. But here's the twist that makes this story unforgettable. Some of the rarest 1955 pennies were never recognized until decades later. They sat unnoticed in drawers, passed through countless hands, used in vending machines, even glued into kids' coin albums. Think about that. Some of the most valuable coins in America were almost lost forever because nobody bothered to look closely enough. And that brings us back to you. Somewhere, right now, in someone's home, in someone's pocket, or maybe even in your possession, lies one of these life-changing pennies. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on them. Dealers are paying record prices. Every day, the competition gets fiercer, and the stories get crazier. One man pulled a penny from a jar and bought a house with it. Another sold his discovery and retired early. The dream is real, and it starts with something as small as a copper coin. You don't have to be a millionaire to find one. You just have to know what to look for. That's why stories like this exist. That's why I'm telling you this now. Because maybe, just maybe, the next miracle discovery is sitting in your pocket right now, and if you find it, if you hold it in your hand and recognize what others have missed, that little piece of copper could be worth more than $1 million. Don't underestimate the power of a penny. Especially the 1955 Lincoln penny. It's not just money, it's history, mystery, and destiny all rolled into one tiny coin.